Welcome to the Saturday Morning Community Freedom Forum. Each and every week we bring this broadcast to you so that you can get inspired, that you can get informed, and that you can then become engaged in the struggle for human rights, the struggle for civil rights, the work that we do for economic justice, the work we do for educational equity. We want you to be motivated to become a part of this growing movement. We come to you on 3 different platforms. One, we're on the Impact Network, the largest African American owned television network in the world. And you can go to Impact wherever you are and tune in to us. We're live on the radio. We're on WVON, carried on the iHeart platform. So you can listen to us as you move about in your vehicles or on your cell phone. We're live on Facebook. We're live streaming from the Rainbow Push Coalition website. Go to rainbowpush.org and you can get us there. Tell your family, tell your friends. It's just 1 hour of information. You want to make sure that everyone in your circle, in your network, is a part of the Push family. Well, in addition to listening and watching us, what else can you do? You can join us. You can join the movement. You can contribute. Membership is $35 a year. If you're a student or a senior, it's $15. How do you join? You go to rainbowpush.org and become a member. Or you can say, I want to just donate. You can go to rainbowpush.org and press donate and give as you've been blessed to give. Well, one of the things we want you to do is get counted. We want to make sure that everyone is counted in this census. The other thing you can do is register and vote. All of these things, Reverend Jackson would encourage you, do what you can while you can, wherever you are. Watch us, like us, share on your social media, encourage your family and friends to become a part of this growing movement for change.
Yet he's been faithful, faithful in my heart. I have questioned, even failed to believe. Yet he's been faithful, faithful to me.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census gives communities across America the chance to get the funding they need. But there's a catch. The money is based on counting an accurate number of residents in each state. The fewer people we count, the less money Illinois gets. Illinois has received nearly $60 billion from the federal government based on numbers from the last census. Every person who doesn't fill out the census means less money for Illinois. That's money we could use for new school programs to help our children thrive and succeed, for building new bridges that would help you travel safely on your morning commute, for paving roads and ensuring more reliable public transportation, and for improving our hospitals and clinics so everyone gets the best health care. In Illinois, we deserve our fair share, and it starts with all of us being counted. Visit my2020census.gov or text 987-987 to learn how you can fill out the census today.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did, and what we did, and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
For over 30 years, Push Excel has branded itself by being the #1 college tour in the Midwest. And although COVID-19 has put a halt on the tour this year, we have not stopped working with your students. As a matter of fact, We have engaged with students and the universities for virtual tours. So check back to pushexcel.org for workshops, online opportunities, as well as upcoming events. Go to pushexcel.org to stay engaged with family opportunities, as well as Cameron, tell us about the tour itself and what happened and the awesome opportunity that you had.
Hi, my name is Cameron Barnes, and so my experience on the HBCU tour that I was afforded to go on in 2015 and 2016, we visited Hampton University, Central State University, Wilberforce University. We visited Norfolk State University. We've been to North Carolina A&T. We went to the Lorraine Motel, so many different historic sites and so many different historically black colleges, LSU, Xavier University in Louisiana. We stayed at Shaq's Hotel at LSU. It was always an amazing, amazing time. Every single time that I went, those 2 years, 2015 and 16, they afforded us an opportunity that we could not afford ourselves at that time. I was a senior in high school, not knowing where I would go to college, and the college tour afforded me the opportunity to go to Central State, and I made my decision as to where I would go to college simply because of the HBCU tour that Push offered. It was one of the greatest decisions of my life, first to go on the tour, to be exposed to that type of experience, and then it was the greatest decision of my life to choose Central State from that tour. And I'm getting ready now to graduate in the midst of this pandemic simply because of the investment that the HBCU tour made in me. And so I would recommend it to any and every student, to any and every parent in Chicago surrounding areas. You ought to take advantage of this wonderful, wonderful experience. It is truly one like no other. It is one of a kind. It is unique. It is only offered at Push, and I recommend it for you.
As you can see, we are here at Rainbow Push, giving meals away every single day. And I want you to go to pushexcel.org for all of your family information and your student information. Go to rainbowpush.org for all of your community information and your COVID updates. And remember, we are here every day pushing for you.
Hi, I'm Eddie Glaude. I'm the James S. McDonald University professor at Princeton University and chair of the African American Studies Department. I wanted to talk a bit with you about the effects of COVID-19 on American higher education. It is clear that coronavirus has disrupted every aspect of American life, and in the process has revealed the deep inequalities that shape our society. This is no less true when it comes to American higher education. The differences between private and public institutions will be readily seen as institutions with strong endowments. Some institutions like Princeton University with billions of dollars will be able to weather this storm. But small colleges and public institutions may not be so lucky. Historically black colleges and universities will struggle to keep their doors open. Over the last few decades in this country, I think it's important for us to say this, that we've witnessed an all-out assault on public universities and colleges. Students were asked to go home, and rightly so. Dormitories can be incubators for sickness. During a regular school year, colds and flu pass around a campus like a game of tag. But what is revealed, especially on residential campuses, is the deep inequality among the student population. Students are asked to take classes online. Many of those students, particularly in public institutions, are housing insecure. And even in private institutions, many students are housing insecure. They were asked to move out of dorms, and now they find themselves in a situation that isn't conducive to the work they're being asked to do. Many lack internet connectivity, or it's spotty. How will they be able to attend class online and do their work? And so many of them are facing the impact of the virus on their immediate families. Universities and colleges provided the student health care. Now they are stranded in some ways. These are not the students who are retreating to the summer home in the Hamptons or the like. They already struggled with the difference in resources during a regular school term. Now those differences become even more glaring in the full light of COVID-19. So you have staff, you have adjuncts, you have the disparities among students, which mean that they will bear the impact of COVID-19 in very different ways. You have graduate students who are still asked to get their work done, many of whom paid their bills by teaching courses, by becoming TAs. They will not be teaching courses anymore. They will struggle. You have assistant professors who don't know what the evaluation process will be for promotion. They themselves are dealing with salary freezes, and because they're at the entry level, that will impact the ways in which they can take care of their family. These are some of the vulnerable populations within American higher education. And I'm not even talking about the various ways in which the hierarchy of wealth within American higher education, right, will exponentially, right, impact how the vulnerable, the most vulnerable within the poorest of institutions, right, will be impacted. And we also have to talk about what is happening with HBCUs, many of whom have struggled with resources, will now have to grapple with furloughs, will have to grapple with the fact that students may not enroll for a variety of reasons, and many of these institutions are tuition driven. We are facing a crisis. It is a crisis that is in part a result of some decisions that were made before COVID-19. The crisis precipitated by the virus can also serve, I think, as a cover for the continued assault on public institutions of higher education around the country. But legislators and politicians should be pressed to continue to support public colleges and universities, and particularly historically Black colleges and universities. Institutions should develop plans that protect the most vulnerable on their campuses, to protect staff, to protect adjuncts, to protect students who are most vulnerable, to protect graduate students, to be clear in their processes and procedures for assistant professors. Their decision-making, I think, should not be driven by simple concern around budgets and endowments. Of course, they must be concerned about that. They are stewards of the institution, I grant that. But I think what should be the superordinate value in these trying times, particularly in American higher education, should be the most vulnerable among us. Let's hope and pray, and let's push institutions of higher learning to do just that. I hope this was helpful, and hopefully we'll talk soon again. Take care.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push, and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text the word on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. And you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jackson, Senior. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Oliver Brooks, President of the National Medical Association, the NMA, and Chief Medical Officer, Watts Healthcare Corporation in Los Angeles. I'm speaking today about what we've been hearing in the news and what we have known for decades. African Americans are suffering disproportionately from a health condition. Now, this time it's the pandemic COVID-19. It is often said when the country gets a cold, the Black community gets pneumonia. It's ironic that this is the same because that is exactly what is happening right now. We are suffering from COVID-19. Aggregate data from the CDC from 14 states is showing that of 1,500 hospitalizations, 1/3 of those are Black, but they only comprise 18% of those populations. So right there, we're at twice the rate of hospitalizations. And you all know the data from North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, Wisconsin. It's happening. So really, the question is, why? So I look at it as a secret that was not a secret to our community, but seemingly not well known to the broader community that has been unmasked. And that is, we suffer more from chronic conditions and therefore more deaths. So why is this? It's a toxic admixture of 3 entities. Number 1, what I call comorbidities. We're just generally sicker. Number 2 is social determinants of health. And number 3 is racism. Now, these all are inexorably linked, and we know it, but let's look at each one separately. So comorbidities. The data is showing that those dying from COVID-19 are more likely to have hypertension, obesity, diabetes, COPD, or lung disease. African Americans are twice as likely to have diabetes, 20% as likely to have hypertension, and 30% more likely to be obese. So right there, here we are, right there in the sweet spot, unfortunately, of having more adverse outcomes. Number 2, let's look at the social determinants of health. The studies show that the social determinants of health have more effect on your health outcome than genetics or the health care you provide. Your environment kills. So we are more likely to be in a job where we are exposed to the virus because we're lower on the socioeconomic status. We're more likely to be a bus driver, a food service worker, a janitor, and you cannot serve food or clean a building when you're working from home. So we are out there exposed. We have poorer housing. We may have 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, so how do you social distance, self-isolate in situations like that? We may have to take the bus to get to work outside of the house. We're a quarter more likely to use public transportation, so there's exposure right there. So this and many other aspects of the social determinants of health put us at higher risk. And then let's look at the last, racism. There are clear studies that show that there is implicit bias that when Blacks seek health care, they are viewed differently than whites, often with a poor outcome. So that basically comes from racism, and let's just say it. So that is why this was predictable, and that is why this is now occurring. So the question arises, what do we do about it? And that's a great question. We have to stand up for ourselves. We have to advocate for ourselves, for our own community. As a patient, if you have hypertension, if you have diabetes, you go to the doctor says, you know, your blood pressure is out of control. You say, well, doc, I need you to get this under control. The doctor says, your diabetes is not where it should be. Well, doc, I need my diabetes to be where it should be. Advocate for yourself. Either get or nurture a relationship with your doctor. You know, make sure that they do what they need to do by you. We need to advocate for those organizations that have our best interests at heart, that are like-minded, that are aligned with what we do. And there are a number of organizations out there like that, and you know who they are. And then thirdly, there will be a referendum in 7 months. It's called an election. So evaluate those that are running, evaluate their positions, their history, their philosophy, how they have voted in the past, and make your decision and go out there and make your voice be heard by voting. Get tested. Targeted testing will allow us to better understand where we are in this whole continuum. So as an African American physician and as the National Medical Association, we represent the 55,000 African American physicians in this country and our African American community. I tell you, wrap your arms around this, around yourselves, that is, and keep your 6-foot distance. Follow the recommendations. Wash your hands often. Keep 6 feet away. Cover your cough. Don't share utensils. You all understand what they are. If you don't, call your doctor and ask for an explanation. We can do something about this. I've outlined some of the actions you can take, but you need to take this to your heart and act on it now. It is ironic that when America has a cold, which is a serious cold called COVID-19, we have the pneumonia. Let us not allow this to continue. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Great crises precipitate great change.
One of the big concerns about the severity of this downturn is the sudden nature of the downturn. This is like falling off of a cliff. Everyone anticipates this will end, right? That is only possible if in the labor market, the people who have been unemployed, who are now unemployed, are still in many ways attached to their employers. Many states have had a dramatic decline in their revenues because businesses have stopped operating. Workers are no longer employed and being paid. This will lead to a dramatic cut in state services at a time when many people need state services.
There's been a lot of talk for a long time about bringing a business sensibility to government. Saying government should run like a business is a mystery to what government does. Waste and redundancy is sort of needs to be built into the system. Having a national stockpile of medical equipment is really from a budgetary, if you're thinking about how lean and efficient can the federal government budget be, that's a huge waste of money. Now we're realizing from the coronavirus report, oh, that's why you have this. That's why you have these things that may seem excessive. There's been this real pressure placed on the way the federal government is supposed to organize itself that has not left space for this kind of preparedness that only governments can do.
So we have plans and programs to help workers who are temporarily unemployed that was not consistent with the way that the contemporary labor market operated. That it right there tells you that we have some problems in our policy that haven't matched to the contemporary situation. The second, I would say, issue that's a real big touch point is how we actually deliver resources and financial assistance to people. Who qualifies? Do those who are on Social Security, who have or haven't filed taxes, will they be able to qualify? There are people who are probably some of the most needy who will not receive an electronic form of a payment. We see the racial disparities in coronavirus now. The deaths are concentrated among African Americans in particular and Hispanics in the metro areas. These are the product of health disparities, environmental racism, and systemic racism. The same as we think about the labor market. If unemployment will go up to, some estimates are saying 40%, it's going to be structurally double in the African American community.
What comes out of the 1930s and then the 1940s, World War II, are kind of a whole new alignment of what government does at the federal level, an expansion in the US of federal power. These moments of crisis do realign the political economy in pretty fundamental ways.
Reverend Jackson and Rainbow Push Coalition, thank you so much for your leadership at this critical time. My name is Spencer Overton. I'm the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, which is America's Black think tank. This is the Joint Center's review of recent COVID-19 policy developments. And we all know that the coronavirus is hitting Black communities hard. For example, as of April 14th, Black people were 30% of the population of Chicago, but 63% of its COVID-19 deaths. Unfortunately, the federal government and many states and localities have not released this type of data like they do with other illnesses. Now, there are a lot of reasons for the disparities in deaths, many of them having to do with structural inequalities like food deserts, implicit bias in healthcare, and lack of access to affordable health care. Also, many Black people are the heroic, essential workers on the front lines exposed to the virus, who allow the rest of us to stay in place. They're the frontline workers in senior citizens facilities, in grocery stores, and in carry-out restaurants. These are the Black folks who work in warehouses and in transportation to keep the supply chain moving and make sure that items are delivered to our doorsteps. So we thank them for their service and their sacrifice, and we want them to stay as safe as possible. Now, Black folks are also being hit hard economically. One recent survey that was taken in early April shows that 45% of Black voters had lost their job, had been put on leave, or had hours reduced due to the coronavirus. So what do, right? We all know that we need to shelter in place, go outside only for essentials like groceries, and wear our masks when we go outside, right? But what should we do from a policy standpoint, right? Well, first, we need the data. The federal government and all states and localities should publicly report their COVID cases, treatment, and deaths by race in real time, just like Chicago does and Milwaukee County and the states of Louisiana and North Carolina and the District of Columbia. They need to report that data. The other states need to report the data, right? Second, we need to use that data to prioritize testing, face masks, and quality and affordable medical care in communities that are hit the hardest, like Black communities. We should also target economic relief toward Black communities and other communities that are hit the hardest, where many have been laid off, where people feel forced to go to work and expose themselves to the virus because they need the check, and where people have inadequate health insurance, right? Third, we need to target resources to ensure that COVID-19 does not deepen existing inequalities in areas like voting rights and education. In Wisconsin, for example, a court made people vote at the polls on election day, which made voters choose between the right to vote and their personal safety. That's not right. We should adopt vote by mail with proper safeguards to make it accessible to all voters. Like we need safeguards like free postage, right? But we can't just have vote by mail. We'll miss some people. We also need safe, sanitary, and uncrowded in-person polling places. Also, as we speak, educational disparities are growing because some students are back to school online and others are not. We need to target our resources so that all students can get back to school online. Now, on April 20th, Congress returns to Washington, D.C. to decide what to do next. Right now is the perfect time for you to call your representative and let them hear from you in terms of what your priorities are and your needs are. For much more detail on Black communities and COVID-19 policy, please go to jointcenter.org. Thanks.
Praise the Lord, everybody. This is Dr. Joseph Bryant Jr. I have the privilege of serving as the senior pastor at Calvary Hill Community Church of San Francisco. And I'm also the co-director of Push Tech 2020, a part of the Rainbow Push Coalition. And we are the managing team here at the Silicon Valley Bay Area office under the leadership of the legendary Reverend Jackson. What a privilege it is for us to serve, especially in this season, as we are continuing to do all that we can to provide resources and support for those in our networks, those that we love, and those that we want to lift up during this trying time. And we thank God for Reverend Jackson and his leadership in particular, as he is gathering the family together on a regular basis. We're having meetings with government officials, legal professionals, medical professionals, finding out all of the latest information that will help us to be secure and safe during this time. It's allowing us to be able to serve one another in a very meaningful and significant way, and we're thankful for his vision and his continued vitality to help all of us to raise the standard and keep hope alive. To that end, here in the Bay Area, we're also grateful for our partnership with the San Francisco African American Faith-Based Coalition, along with several restaurants, and we are now providing 1,000 meals per week to our seniors and shut-ins around this area. And we've also extended our reach. We are reaching out to our essential workers. We truly thank God for all of you, our medical professionals, those in hospitals and clinics. We've been able to deliver meals to them this week as well. So we're grateful for that privilege, grateful for that honor. And for those of you that are part of the extended Rainbow Push family, we thank God for you. Go to our website, rainbowpush.org. Make a donation. Let us know that you've been blessed and encouraged, lifted up by all the work that we do, all the things that Reverend Jackson continues to do. Or you can press the word push on your cell phone, on your smartphone. PUSH 41444 is the number. Just text it out. Text the word push to 41444. Put that information down so we can get you into our database, so we can get you emails and text updates, all the information we can give you about what's happening in the health world, what's happening in the government world, what you can do to make your life better, especially in this critical time. We love you so much. From Rainbow Push, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Calvary Hill, and from all of us, may God continue to bless you as we press forward and be blessed in this season.
Good morning. My name is James Gomez. I'm the International Affairs Director for Rainbow Push Coalition based in Washington, D.C. And we thank you for joining us during our weekly Saturday morning forum, even during these difficult and trying times. We hope that you will continue to stay safe and stay at home as we fight this pandemic together. I'm here to briefly talk to you about the impact of the coronavirus in the continent of Africa. As the virus spread across every corner of the globe, Africa, the poorest continent on the globe, must not be forgotten, which is why Reverend Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition are calling for sufficient number of ventilators and urgently needed assistance to be sent to Africa. Africa needs and deserves our support as the virus begins to spread within the continent with an impact that will be more devastating due to poor health infrastructure, poverty, and overcrowded informal settlement. Africa is an ally of the United States and has always stood with the US. And despite the difficulties we face in the United States in battling this virus, we must find some means of supporting the continent. And this is why, once again, Reverend Jackson is appealing for urgent assistance to the continent. According to the World Health Organization, the Africa Center for Disease Control, and the Economic Commission for Africa, there are currently about 23,000 reported cases in the continent. But as we all know, these numbers can easily change minute by minute, hour by hour. There are currently reported 1,100 deaths in the continent. But the fear is, with the limited resources in the continent and without urgent assistance, the continent could see millions of severe cases in the next 6 months, which will result in hundreds of thousands of deaths. This is why it is very urgent, once again, to assist the continent. The issue of ventilators is very urgently needed. There are 10 countries in Africa without a single ventilators. Sierra Leone have 13 ventilators for a population of over 7 million. Burkina Faso has 11 ventilators for a population of about 20 million. Central African Republic, 3 ventilators for a population of about 4 million. Liberia, 3 ventilators for a population of about 4 million. Southern Sudan, 4 ventilators for a population of about 11 million. In all, and this is very important, in all, there are about 2,000 ventilators to serve 100 million people in public hospitals across 41 countries in Africa, compared to 170,000 ventilators in the United States. Surely, Africa needs and deserves our support. Another issue is with regards to short supply of clean water and soap, which is urgently needed in terms of fending off this virus. The limited testing make it very difficult to know the real scale of the infection. So Africa needs every assistance possible to assist in terms of testing, whereby you can start to identify the population that have it and how to isolate them and therefore protect other people from getting infection. Capacity is also a very important issue. There are about 5,000 intensive care beds across 43 countries out of 55 countries in the continent. That is to say, 5 beds per million person. 5 beds for every 1 million person. That cannot sustain. And we have to do better. This is why, once again, we are appealing to all of you to call your elected members and appeal to them to do their utmost best in these difficult times to support the continent as we must fight this global pandemic together, or it will all come around again. Thank you, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary, Senior Vice President and Chief of Global Policy for the Rainbow Push Coalition. Today I want to give you an update on what's been going on in the legislative arena as we continue to hear about the need for the supporting of small businesses and faith-based institutions all across our country. As we're all recovering from the coronavirus pandemic and the world is still reeling from the after effects, the Rainbow Push Coalition has continued to advocate and fight for the interests of our communities, our faith-based institutions, and our small businesses. To that end, in response to the Congress passing and the President signing the CARES Act relief bill, which provided for $349 billion of payroll protection program loans and $10 billion of economic injury disaster loan assistance, the Rainbow Push Coalition, under the direction of Reverend Jackson, has been conducting a number of conference calls to hear in real time what the responses have been and what the experiences are of those persons who need this important relief the most. As we all know, the rollout was clumsy. Many banks were not ready, other banks were highly selective, and they excluded intentionally many of the very businesses and organizations that needed this critical relief the most. What we have seen is many of the major corporations game the system. And so they took billions of dollars in value in millions of dollar increments to be able to pad their bottom line, while many small businesses and faith-based institutions were left either in the queue or outside the door altogether. In response to this need, Reverend Jackson convened a series of conference calls with faith leaders, business owners, members of Congress, and representatives from the White House staff to discuss the issues that were happening on the ground in real time that were disadvantaging the small businesses, faith-based organizations, and houses of worship in our neighborhoods all across the country. In response to that feedback, and as the money eventually ran out, Reverend Jackson deemed it proper that a joint letter would be drafted that he signed along with the support of over 100 national and denominational faith leaders, trade organization leaders, professional organization representatives, and small business organizations and small business owners from across the country. In that letter that was sent to the leadership of the Congress to include the Speaker of the House and the President, we laid out in detail what we believe were the necessary fixes to address the concerns and the gaps in the Phase 1 rollout of the CARES Act legislation. Amongst those included a request that those applicants who were left in the queue and had not yet received their application number, that they would not be sent to the back of the line, and that the dollar value of those pending applications would not be charged to the next allocation of payroll protection program funds. We also asked that there would be a tracking of data. What is the background of the businesses and the organizations that have been approved and even those who were denied? Where were these small businesses located? Are they minority business enterprises, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and the like? And also to make sure that the large corporations were not able to game the system at the expense and to the harm of the small businesses across the country. We also asked that the appropriation be of a sufficient amount to truly address the issue, the needs of small businesses, houses of worship, and faith-based organizations across the country. We strongly believe that the initial numbers that were being discussed as a second phase of payroll protection program dollars was wholly inadequate to address the true need that was actually left behind, while the unreal and unrealistic need of corporations who took advantage of the system were actually depleting the funds in real time. The letter was signed and sent to members of Congress and the President, even as an agreement was reached concerning the Phase 2 appropriation of dollars for the Payroll Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. We still believe that small businesses need protection, And so we have asked that a percentage of the dollars appropriated be carved out and targeted specifically to those small businesses that need this vital assistance. We've also asked that there not be any arbitrary vote that comes by way of a parliamentary process until all of the concerns that remain unaddressed from phase one are taken care of in phase two. This includes ensuring that any bank or payroll protection program processor cannot arbitrarily change the rules and determine who gets served and who gets left behind. To that end, we continue to fight under the leadership of Reverend Jackson for those interests and those causes that affect communities and neighborhoods all across this country. We simply ask that as you are continuing to recover, shelter in place, worship in place, remain healthy and safe during our recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, that if you find yourself needing the support and the assistance of the Rainbow Push Coalition, we're here, we're ready to continue to serve you. All you need to do is go to rainbowpush.org, join us, partner with us, fight with us, because in the end, justice will end. Until next week, we'll keep fighting, and I'll have an update real soon.
Rainbow Push Coalition is calling for more protection and help for inmates and staff at jails across the country. Reverend Jackson says inmates are trapped in what, quote, amounts to graveyards. Dozens of religious and community leaders from across the country took part in a conference call this morning.
How can those in jail be safely housed there? How can jails be safe for those who are working there? We are also concerned about the adequacy of personal protection equipment, supplies, social distancing, etc.
As the ABC7 I-Team has reported, 3 inmates have died from COVID-19 at the Cook County Jail. Sheriff Tom Dart has told us all proper precautions are being taken to keep staff and inmates safe.
It is immoral and downright unjust to be arrested and without having a trial, receiving a death sentence. Of course, that's exactly what's going on in the age of the coronavirus crisis. For in this coronavirus crisis, we are learning here in Dallas County, as well as around this nation in our county jails and detention centers, that so many find themselves, after being arrested, being exposed to this deadly virus. That sets up the jailhouse to become a funeral home. They find themselves going to jail, and the jail becomes a pipeline to a cemetery. That's immoral, that's wrong, that's unjust. In Dallas County, the ACLU, along with Next Generation Action Network led by Minister Dominique Alexander, they are engaged in a lawsuit against Dallas County. Reverend Jackson has been gracious enough to lend the weight of the justice legacy of Rainbow Push and merged Rainbow Push with the leadership of the National Bar Association, the National Medical Association, black lawyers and black doctors, taking a stand against this injustice. Today, April the 20th, 2020, right here in Dallas County, I learned that over 30 persons were arrested in separate incidents, petty drug charges. One person had marijuana on her, and the container it was in weighed a whole lot more than the marijuana that she had. But she's arrested and taken to Lou Sterrett, where she is booked and now exposed to this deadly virus. There's something wrong with that picture. And that is why the lawsuit is in court tomorrow. This lawsuit will also bring to bear not only what is happening in the county, but the state of Texas. Governor Abbott has issued an executive order. And this executive order gets in the way of justice, as it basically says that judges don't have that kind of authority when it comes to releasing persons who are in jail, especially on these petty charges. And so that is what is going on here in Dallas County, but not just in Dallas County. This is a national issue. It's a part of the mass incarceration, what Michelle Alexander called the new Jim Crow. And we're standing against the new Jim Crow. We are daring to protect these persons, many who have not been even afforded the opportunity of a hearing. 23% of the persons who are in jail have not had a hearing. And so here they are without a hearing, many for months, no hearing. And so we are saying this is unjust and we are standing against it. And so join us in this fight for the least of these, the most vulnerable. I have a member who has a brother who is in jail. We're working very hard with persons to ensure that he gets support because he has asthma and he's been exposed to someone in the jail who has the virus. That's what's going on right here in Dallas. We don't want Jesus to say about Dallas County Jail or any of the county jails in this country, I was in jail and you exposed me to the coronavirus. And as a consequence, what was an arrest became a death sentence. Lord, when did we do that? And as much as you did it to the least of these, you've done it also unto me.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to pound 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement.